Paulie Throws show is staying on the road quite literally today as I'm filming this video in the car driving up to the NCAA Outdoor National Championships, Eugene, Oregon. It's like a set. We're just outside San Francisco right now. It'll be about 7 hours up to Eugene, so I figured this would be a great opportunity to do my NCAA's picks and predictions video. So we're going to be going event by event, men's and women's. Oh, I got my driver, Audrey, here.
Hello.
You guys now know Audrey from the last video. We're going up to NCAAs with Sidious Mag, where we'll be joined by a couple of our other pals to cover one of the best meets in the world. But yeah, so I've got top threes for each event, men's and women's. We've got 8 events to do, 24 athletes to talk about, I suppose. And I'm going to try and do it in less than 20 minutes. So we'll see how that turns out. But yeah, let's get right into it. All right, we're going to be starting with maybe the marquee event because it's the only one we've got a world record holder in. We're going to start with the men's discus. Mikolas is winning this year. Like, he has to finally get his NCAA title. Ralford Mullings is insane. Ralford Mullings is the second best thrower in NCAA history. But see, the thing is, Mikolas has competed 5 times this year, and it's performances 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 on the collegiate list this season. Ralford has competed 4 times, and those are 6, 7, 8, 9. So they are as clear of a top 2 as you could possibly imagine, but there's just no way. Like, the thing that Mikolas has improved most since 2023, when you look at last year and the way this year started, is he's so much more consistent now. So, like, his flukes, like last year's worst performance was 67-48, I think, at Euros. This year, his worst is like 69-80 at ACCs. So his bad performances are better than anyone else's right now. So basically, I don't think there's any way Ralford beats Mikolas. Audrey, as someone who has now seen Mikolas throw 75-56 and 72-12 in person, do you agree with my pick of Mikolas over Ralford?
Yeah, he's building a pretty solid resume to be the first thrower to win the Bowerman.
Yeah. Leo Neugebauer, we love you. You don't count as a thrower. Mikolas would count, though. That third spot is really interesting because there's like 11 guys that are going to be there that have thrown 61 plus this season, I think. But the one that I think is really going to separate themselves is Trevor Gunzell of Alabama, which I realize this is kind of now just a 1, 2, 3 on the national list. But Trevor didn't have a great day at East Regionals where he only threw like 57 something, kind of snuck in there on his last throw. But I think that was kind of the reality check he needed to some extent. And I think he's going to come out swinging. And this guy, he's thrown 62 plus, I think, on 4 occasions this year. So he's just been the third best thrower all year. And he's kind of gotten the bad one shaken out. He's dealt with a thing I'll talk about a lot in this video is dealing with adversity at regionals. I think that's a really strong thing throwers can build upon. And so I think for Trevor, that's not necessarily a warning sign. I think it's a good one. Like, okay, this, like, he's not invincible. He's going to need to bring it to finish third. And I think he's more than capable of doing that. Moving over to the women's side now, the battle for, once again, it's a really good 1-2 between some of the best in collegiate history in Alida Van Daalen and Jaden Ulrich. And I have them finishing in that order. I think Jaden got she got a quick one on Alida at East Regionals, throwing like a shade under 65, while Alida fouled her first 2 throws and then came back and threw a shade under 60 in round 3. So Jaden got the win there. But we saw regionals isn't necessarily a super great predictor because last year Alida threw 65 twice at regionals and then beat Jaden and Veronica Fraley and then lost to both of them at Outdoor Nationals. And I was talking to Eric Worski, the UF throws coach, a little bit, and like Alida told him like she needed that. She needed a competition like that to happen, where it's like, okay, this isn't a cakewalk. Like bad things can happen, and bad things happened to her, and she responded really well. This is no disrespect to Jaden Ulrich, who's thrown 69 meters this year in Ramona. She threw 66 earlier in the year away from Ramona. She is a beast. I just think that when it comes down to, it's going to be like a tooth and nail battle. I think that'll be Saturday night. And I just think Alida is going to have that little extra edge to come out on top. And then for bronze, it's another one, like kind of like the men's, where there's so many. It's like a top two seem pretty solid, and then third could go to anyone. I'm leaning. I said last week, I'm buying all the Shelby Frank stock that I can. I'm sticking with that, and I think Shelby Frank is going to take third here. She showed some really, really good stuff, throwing 61-27, I think it was, when she won Big 12s. And she looked solid enough at regionals to make her way through. And yeah, I think Shelby is, it's going to be a really good battle. You got people like Kaiser Marie Lindfors, Sierra Jackson. You obviously, it's unfortunate Erica Beistel is D2, because that would have been really fun to see her and Alida and Jaden go head to head. But for that third spot, I'm leaning Shelby right now. All right, moving on to men's shot now. This one, it's interesting because Tarek Robinson O'Hagan, the two-time defending indoor national champion, outdoor champ last year, is not the national leader at the moment. So that adds a little bit of intrigue, a little bit of spice to this one, especially knowing how competitive Tarek is, how just insane his will to win is. And I think that's going to win out. He's, Jason Swarens hit that 21:37, which is the national lead, I think in late April maybe. But when you look at regionals and conference, like Tarek is just, he's ramping up for this postseason. And I think he's going to do something really special in Eugene. So I have Tarek winning. He goes back to back. And then CJ Licata of South Carolina, I think he's taken silver. He's really consistent, and he's the glider. Like it's crazy to see. You can see a glider take silver at NCAAs and the big 2025, which is awesome. And then for third, I do have Jason Swarens finishing third. Like I said, the national leader for Wisconsin right now. He's really good through 1980 at regionals, through I think like 2050 something to win a really tough Big Tens competition. But I think on that day, just the resume that CJ has built up the last year and a half or so, and then obviously Tarek is Tarek. I think those two are just going to have a little bit more juice when we get to the final. I think we're recording this on Tuesday. It should be going up on Tuesday. So I think tomorrow night on Wednesday, I think we're going to see Tarek become a 4-time NCAA champion in the shot put, which is pretty crazy. For women's shot, there's one woman this year that has thrown 19 meters outdoors. It's Maya Lesner, Colorado State. And I think she's getting back on top of that podium like she was indoors last year. That 1960 is kind of like an outlier throw for her this year, but she's shown the ability to compete well at a national level. And then, she's just been pretty consistent, like 18 mid to 18 high throughout this spring. She's thrown 19 multiple times before, so I think she's kind of the safest bet for that win there. And then for second, probably Ole Miss's Akoma Odeluga has been probably the most consistent women's shot putter in the country this year. She's thrown 18 high a lot. I believe she's second in the country right now with a season's best of 1892. And like she's really good. I wouldn't be surprised if she won, but I'm just gonna slightly lean Maya right now. And then for bronze, I'm sipping the Graceland Lyseth Kool-Aid. She clutches it up and throws 18:31 on her last throw at regionals, which is a huge PB to punch her ticket to nationals. And, 1831 there's a couple women who have thrown farther than that. But Graceland just has that ability to compete that she's shown. She was on the stage last year, which I think was probably a good learning experience for her. She also went to World Juniors last year. And so yeah, I'm optimistic about how Graceland is going to be able to compete this week, and I wouldn't be surprised if she can end up on the podium. We're going to move on to men's hammer now, which, I talked a little bit last week about how we're losing a little bit of steam without Kenny Akeji and Trey Knight here. But Kostas Zaltos, Anulos Montserranis, and Tarek Robinson O'Hagan are still going to bring the heat tomorrow. This is going to be the first final. It's going to start the meet off the best way possible, and I'm so excited for it. Audrey, are you excited for it?
Very excited. Shout out P. Millie.
Shout out P. Millie. shout out to Peter Miller, the throws coach at Minnesota. He's just been a great guy all season. Obviously a really good coach, but I got the chance to talk with him a little bit in Ramona, and then he talked with Audrey a little bit at West Regionals. He's the GOAT, and I think he's going to get a national title this year because I think Kostas Zaltos. I got Kostas taking the win in this field. Anulos has the better season's best. He's thrown 78-61. Kostas has, quote-unquote, only managed 77-91. But Kostas won Big Tens, beat Anulos head-to-head there. And Kostas is just so good, so consistent. I mean, Anulos is too. Like, these superlatives work for him as well. But I'm giving Kostas the edge here. And then this is maybe my most controversial, I think, pick of the entire meet. I think Tarek's going to beat Anulos. Part of this is acknowledging there is randomness at NCAA championships. There are surprises that happen. And so most of my picks are pretty chalk. And so I kind of want a little bit of interestingness here. Interestingness. That's a new word I came up with. So I'm saying Tarek has been throwing better than he ever has this year. When you look at his big PB over 75 for the first time at SECs, and then he threw 74, a shade under, or shade over 74.50 at regionals. He's in the best shape of his life right now, throwing really well, and he is just such an elite competitor that going up against Kostas and Anulos, where he is technically the underdog, I think that's going to bring something out of him that we haven't quite seen yet. It's probably going to take 76 to podium, which Tarek has never done before, but I'm confident that he'll be able to pull that out tomorrow when it matters most. And then I do have Anulos taking third. Moving to women's hammer now, this is maybe the event with, I think, the most intrigue in a way, because it feels the most open, because there's 5 women that have thrown 70 this year, but nobody's really separated themselves as the class of the field. Emma Robbins and Laura Roberts of Oklahoma State and Texas State, respectively, they've been throwing really well this year. If you just look at the top list, you'd think they're probably the top 2. But I don't have either one of them in my top 3. So maybe women's hammer is the one where I'm going the most reachy, perhaps. But taking the gold, I have Steph Ratcliffe of Georgia reclaiming her title from 2023 when she was at Harvard. She fouled out of this meet last year. She fouled out of Florida relays earlier on this season. So that is kind of a risk with her to some extent. But she's been throwing really well. She broke 70 multiple times. I think she had 4 or 5 throws over 70 en route to her SEC title a couple weeks ago. And she's just in really good form. Last year, after NCAAs, we saw her go on this tear where she eventually qualified for the Olympics, throwing 70 meters just time after time after time. And I think, seeing something like that kind of start here isn't out of the picture. So I have Steph winning. I have VCU's Gudrun Hallgrimsdotter How's my Icelandic pronunciation there? I have her taking second. She was, I think, fifth at this meet last year, but she's the top qualifier out of regionals, throwing a little under 69, or a little under 70 maybe. She was the NCAA runner-up in the weight throw this year. She's just been in really good form, and I think she'll end up taking silver. And then the Shelby Frank hype train is still at Paul Hoff Mahoney Station. So I think Shelby Frank is going to take bronze. She's going to go double bronze here, which is going to be a really strong finish. Maggie Ewan-esque, some may say. Jelani Davis-esque, maybe. But yeah, I think Shelby, just the stuff she showed, regionals weren't super fantastic for her necessarily. But the things that she showed in winning Big 12s, where, she threw 60 meters in the disc and then 70 meters in the hammer, I think that's going to be good enough. I think she can replicate that form. Same way, like, she's a competitor. She made the finals at U.S. trials last year in the hammer and the disc. And so I think she can replicate something like that in Hayward again. And I think she'll go double bronze.
The hammer comp at Hayward has a special place in our hearts.
It does. On the ramp alongside the left sector line of the hammer field at Hayward is where Audrey and I first met last year at this meet last year. So it was a pretty special moment. We're going back there tomorrow, so that'll be fun. But yeah, it's the hammer. It kind of sucks that Hayward, that the hammer is outside of the stadium, but they get a really good, like, people show up for the hammer in Hayward, so it'll be a good one, even if it is not necessarily center stage, so to speak. All right, moving on to the final events now. We're starting with men's jav. And for this one, I've got the national leader, Miami's Devoux Deysel, taking the win. He threw 82, I think 35 at ACCs to take the big win there. And then at East Regionals, like, he only threw 72 meters, but that competition was rain delayed by like hours. They were throwing it like 10:30 at night, and he did like 7-step approach or something. Just really, really short approach, and then just chucks it 72 meters. Like, I'm not putting that much stock into that competition where he threw like 10 meters under his season's best and finished like 6th or something. Like, he's an 82-meter thrower. I think he's going to prove that again. And yeah, it's tight. There's a lot of guys over 80, and then there's a lot of guys in that like high 70s range. But I'm going Devoux for gold, and then I got Mustafa Al-Sharif of Georgia, the Olympian from Egypt, finishing second. He's been throwing well this year, but he lost SECs. He has broken 80. He threw 80 at Tom Jones, I believe, in the middle of April. And he's always good for a good mark, but it's just a matter of if he's going to have a really good mark. And it feels like it's been a little bit since he has had one of those really good, like, high 70s or 80-meter marks. So it kind of feels like he's due for one, given the caliber of thrower that we know he is. And obviously, Don Babbitt gets his guys and gals ready for nationals, which we'll talk about in a second. So yeah, I think Mustafa for silver. And then for bronze, I've got Keyshawn Strawn of Nebraska, who is, second only behind Devoux on the national list this year. And he's thrown 80 a couple times. I think he's the only man in the country, I believe, to throw 80 multiple times this year. And then he's just been solidly in that like 75 to 76 meter range. And, he's got 84 meter potential. We saw that out of him in 2023. But then he's been dealing with some injuries. The 81, I believe he threw at Drake Relays, was a step back towards that. And we'll just see, like, if he can kind of continue that progression back towards the form we saw from him before his injuries at the beginning of his collegiate career. Like, yeah, gold is obviously on the table for him. But right now, I'm sticking with Devoux for gold. And then, like I said, Mustafa and Keyshawn for second and third. Women's jav now, and I think third time, well, I guess technically fourth time, because she was at NCAA Outdoors her freshman year, just didn't place. But I think third time is the charm for Liana Davidson. She's been runner-up the last 2 years. Last year behind Rima Odebor's collegiate record. This year, I think she gets the job done, and I think she finally takes home that NCAA title. It's been a good season for Liana where, she opened at 63 and then 63 high. So big PB for her. And then she flies to Melbourne the next week and throws 61. And then she flies back to Georgia and Gainesville and throws 59. So she's thrown well with a lot of tough travel, a lot of mileage. She also went out to Tucson. Regionals wasn't pretty for her. I think she finished 7th or 8th and only threw 53 maybe. But she's a seasoned competitor. She's got to be the most experienced woman in this field, given her, 2 runner-up finishes the last 2 years. And this year, she's not the national leader. That's her teammate, Manuela Rotundo. But Manuela hasn't really been throwing anything too special the last couple weeks. Liana took her down to SECs, winning her 3rd straight SEC title. So I've got, once again, I think Liana is going to be, or not once again, for the first time, I should say, I think we're going to be saying Liana Davidson, national champion. Then finishing second, I've got Nebraska's Maddie Harris. Maddie's just really, really good. She's one of the other ones who is maybe just as experienced as Liana. Redshirted last year, but now she's back. She's been throwing really well. Big Ten champ. I believe she had the best mark out of the West Regional. And, yeah, she's just been consistent. She's been great. She's thrown 59 plus this year. And this is a stage that she's used to. So I could definitely see her pulling out a second-place finish, even against one of the strongest fields in NCAA history. And then for that bronze, I've got Valentina Barrios-Bornicelli of Mizzou, who beat Manuela Rotundo, took silver at SECs, and then she kind of carried that over through pretty well at regionals. And, yeah, I like the momentum that Valentina's been building. And it's really a lot of experience on this podium. I think all 3 of them are seniors. Maddie is technically a 5th-year senior, I believe, because she redshirted last year. So there's a lot of experience on this podium, and there are some talented younger throwers in the field, like Manuela, who's just a freshman. But I think ultimately experience is kind of going to come out on top for them.
Do you think any NCAA records are on watch this week?
That's a good question. The most likely one is women's jav, obviously, because, Rima Odebor set that record 64-19 last year. Liana was in that competition through 60 meters for the first time last year at this meet, the same meet where Rima set that collegiate record. And now she's only about 30 centimeters back of that. Manuela Rotundo is 2 centimeters off of that. And, Maddie Harris, I think, could eclipse the 60-meter barrier for the first time. But really, it's going to be a matter, I think, of in her, Rima did it in her last collegiate meet. Can Liana reset that record in her final collegiate meet? So if you're looking for a collegiate record in the throws this week, I think women's jav is the way to go.
And what can people expect from Paulie Throws coverage this week?
Oh, Paulie Throws covered. Well, you guys can expect interviews on my Twitter, @PHoffMahoney, and the Instagram, @Paulie Throws. We're going to have live updates on Twitter and on Instagram stories. We're going to be doing a recap show. Maybe we'll be doing the recap show Sunday afternoon on our drive back. But yeah, it's going to be a good week. We're still going to have This Week in Throws coming out sometime in the next day or two because we've got some more stuff to talk about, including finally a 22-meter thrower this year. Thank goodness, Leo Fabry. So we still got This Week in Throws from Eugene. And then, yeah, it's going to be a good one. Sidious Mag, we're planning on doing some recap shows each night, so stay tuned for those. And yeah, just keep up with all the coverage on Cities Mag and Cities Mag U. Paulie Throws, P. Hoff Mahoney on Twitter. Well, thank you guys for watching. Please comment your picks and predictions or comment and make fun of mine. Audrey, speaking of that, what do you think is my worst prediction here?
That you didn't include Jana van Schalkwyk in the women's jab podium.
That's a fair point. Jana's been throwing well this year. Maybe a little bit of UCLA bias seeping through for Audrey there, but no, Jana's. I mean, she'll be a contender. Definitely, I think, easy first team All-American lock. And yeah, I mean, second through, I think I'm most confident about Liana winning. Second or third really could be toss-ups. Like, I think Maddie's a pretty safe bet for second, but third could be wide open. If Jana can bring it, throw a season's best, like, absolutely. 6 points for the Bruins in the bag right there. But that's all I got for this one. Like I said, P. Hoff Mahoney on Instagram, or P. Hoff Mahoney on Twitter. Paulie Throws on Instagram.
Audrey Allen 17 on Instagram.
Audrey Allen 17 on Instagram for the best throws photos you'll ever see. And video. That's all we got for you. We will see you guys next time.
See you in track and field town.
I love that. That's a bar.